Howdy y'all, welcome to the Booth Western Art Museum's Facebook page, and this isn't my house. Where am I? I am back at the Booth Art Museum. Isn't it incredible? This week, staff is back in the building because we are getting ready because this Saturday on June 13th, we are letting members back into the building, and then the following Saturday, June 20th, the general public is going to be welcome back into the museum. We're so excited to be getting ready for people to be back in the space, to enjoy the artwork, and we have missed it so much, and so we're so excited to be back here. So I am continuing my art lessons from inside the museum now, even though some of you are still at home. That is wonderful. So, today's art lesson is going to be something that is very iconic, I think, in general to the museum, because we have two giant ones of these in our space that I'm going to show you pictures of, but today we are drawing a stagecoach. So stagecoaches were so important to people moving out west after the Civil War during westward expansion, and they have a really unique history that I'm going to get into a little bit today, but we need to get started on our art making before we can talk about the history and stuff. So, important reminders that I tell y'all each week. You don't need any fancy supplies to do this lesson. Even though I'm back in the museum and we have some really great art supplies in the closet right over there that I could pull out and use. I brought all of the easy supplies that I've been using from home to make these lessons. So I'm still using basic materials. If all you have is a piece of paper and a pencil, that's all you're gonna need. But you can also use stuff for color. If you got crayons, you got markers, just grab whatever's closest to you that you're gonna need to create this. Also, yours does not have to look like mine. I'm gonna draw mine different than I did here because I want to take risks and experiment and be bold. So I encourage you to do the same. And this, you can probably tell, looks a little complicated, but it's not gonna be that bad. I'm gonna walk you through this. You're gonna be able to do this, and it's just for practice. It's to have fun and to fine-tune your artistic skills. And the more we do this, the better we become as artists. So I'm going to flip you around to the table in front of me, and I'm gonna show you pictures of some of our stagecoaches first before we get started. So you're gonna get a nice little, you're gonna get to see more of these cowboy boots. Aren't those so cool? We did those for a Paulding County Fine Arts Day as a community project. Boop, here we go. Perfect. Okay, so I've got my example, got my paper. Really quick, I'm gonna show you some pictures of two stagecoaches. So these are pictures in our gallery. So if you come to the booth, you've probably seen these. They're just in the middle of the gallery. And this one is called Redbird, and then this one is called Concord Coach number 84. You can probably tell by looking at them that this one is a little bit fancier and nicer than this one because they were used for two different purposes that I'll get into a little bit later. But I've been very inspired by these, obviously, for our art project today, but also just a fun little other painting I wanted to mention. So this painting was done by an artist named Fred Fellows, who is incredibly talented, as you can see, but this stagecoach is actually Redbird. And you know what? Fred Fellows, he actually used, this is his stagecoach. Isn't that cool? So he painted his stagecoach that he donated to the museum in this painting. And also, one fact we like to share in the museum is the person driving the stagecoach here is actually one of our historian at the museum, Jim Dunham, who a lot of you, if you've been to the museum, have probably met. So, without further ado, let's get started on our stagecoach. So, the first thing I think that is most important to start with on your stagecoach is the wheels, because you can kind of think of the wheels as like the almost the foundation or the base of our drawing. So that's going to inform like everything else that we do in this drawing. So for the wheels, I don't have anything around me right now that I could grab to trace some circles. well, I have this water bottle, so I could at least do this for the front wheel. So if you have something, if you're not confident with drawing circles, you can just grab stuff you've got to trace a circle. And then the back, so the front wheel is always going to be bigger than the back wheel. And you can kind of see that. This is a great picture to show that. In this Redbird, how the front wheel is smaller than this back wheel. And that was for stability, so that if they hit a bump, these back wheels would be able to stabilize the whole coach and cause it from not tipping over, which was a good thing, as you can imagine. So, I've traced this circle. I'm just going to eyeball this one and do my best. I'm not making it a perfect circle because, you know, this wagon has probably hit some bumpy trails and isn't an absolutely perfect circle. So there's no need to be super perfect here. Now, to draw all of these spokes for your wheel, we're going to do a little bit of math. I know what you're thinking. No, I am not good at math. I'm not a huge fan of math, but this is just some really simple geometry terms to help you figure out exactly where these spokes are going to line up. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a line that's going to go straight across like this, which is like a 180-degree angle. And then you are going to create like a plus shape. So you're going to draw a vertical line up and down like this. And what you've created here is you have created some right angles. Oh, here, hold on. All right, sorry. Actually, here, somebody in the comments, I'm a little bit paranoid right now that I'm not broadcasting on the booth page and I'm on my personal Facebook page. Oh, I'm on here. All right. I got a little bit paranoid because I wasn't seeing comments. All right. We're good now. Okay. So you have created a plus sign with some right angles here. So a right angle is like a 90-degree angle, and you can tell because if you draw a little square right here, it'll be like a nice little perfect square in the corner. And that's how you tell what a right degree angle is. Now, to create the other spokes, you're going to create some acute angles, which is when an angle is like 45 degrees or less. So if this is a right angle here, that's 90 degrees. If we divide it in half, that's 45. So there you go. That's it. That's all your math for today. I promise I won't include any more math stuff. But if you create angles that are over 90 degrees, those are called obtuse angles. So whenever you're drawing, and I'm going to do the same process on this back wheel. So we're going to create our 180-degree angle, our 90-degree angle, and then got our acute angles at 45 degrees. There you go. And now what I did on mine is I actually, now that I have kind of this pizza shape, if you will, or these pie slices, I'm going to go in and basically trace the shape on the inside to create these little rectangles with the curve on top. Because basically what I'm going to do, I'll draw one right here so that you guys can kind of see what I am doing. Here we go. So after you draw this shape in all of your spaces, you can go in and erase the lines we drew before, and then it's going to look a little bit more like it's a wheel with these spokes in there. So this is going to take me a second, and it'll probably take you a second to do, but it's going to make your wagon look very official. It's going to make us look like we know what we're doing, like we're real architects and designers in here. Go. Trying to do this one kind of quick so you can get the idea, and then when I go to this other one, it won't be as confusing. Here we go. And so this shape in the wheel, it's actually, so this shape is symmetrical, and that if I took it along this line and I folded that shape in half, it would be the same on both sides. But this is also a form of radial symmetry, which is when there's a point in the middle, and everything that sprouts out from that point looks exactly the same all the way around. And radial symmetry usually happens when you are designing with circles. Alrighty, so there we go. So that's basically your shape, and then you can also create a circle in the middle. That's going to be like the, here we go, this is a good picture of one. So there's like a circle here and a straight line that connects the two wheels on the other side, which we're not drawing both wheels, but that circle is what that is for. Okay, so now I'm going to go and I'm going to draw this shape here. I'm going to go ahead and create those triangles for this back wheel. And honestly, I feel like the other parts of the Stagecoach, they don't take quite as long, but also I feel like the wagon wheel is so iconic. I feel like it's very important to spend a little bit of time on this part of your drawing because I feel like that's what makes wagons. It's a part of what makes them so recognizable. And one thing that I really enjoy about when I have done my bit of research on the history of stagecoaches in America and in the American West is that there are designers and inventors who used artistic skills to design stagecoaches to benefit their communities. There's many technological features on stagecoaches that are still a part of cars today. There's a lot of aspects of how cars are made today that come from how stagecoaches were designed. Okay, so this looks crazy. I'm gonna get my my big eraser here to erase these lines. Here we go. All right, so here's circle. You all probably watching are familiar that I am a pretty messy drawer to begin with, and then I clean it up as I go. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, so there we go. We've got our wheels. We are halfway there. In my opinion, this shape and getting this to look good is one of the harder parts. So now what we're going to do is we are going to create the top part of our stagecoach here. So basically what we're going to do is create a straight line, kind of curve between the two wheels, and I'm going to draw on top of my wheel and erase the parts that go behind. Here we go. So I'm kind of creating like a U shape because then we are going to go straight up and down here and then straight across at the top, and that is going to be the big outline of our stagecoach. And then I'm going to erase all of these lines in there. So go, and here we go. All right. Oh wait, I erased the wrong ones. Oh my goodness. The dyslexia strikes again. There we go. Okay. And then go on top here, on top here, on top here, on top here. So basically, you are creating it so it looks like the coach is behind the wheels when you erase those lines that overlap there. Okay. So now you can start adding some of those unique details that you find and see in a stagecoach. I'm going to put this picture here. So you can make yours as detailed or as simple as you want. I'm going with a little bit more simple only because I'm on a limited time schedule. So you can create kind of a curved line here if you would like to create the boot of your stagecoach. You can also create kind of another curved line to the front, do a curved line here, and then I'm going to create a little corner essentially, and this is where the driver and the shotgun would sit. And then I'm going to create a brace, or a brake, excuse me. So basically on stagecoaches, you can kind of see it on here, the brakes on the other side. So the driver of the stagecoach would sit up here, and then they would put their foot on this to slow down the wheels and then they would have reins to slow down the horses. Now, I did reference it, but the person sitting next to the stagecoach was called the shotgun because they actually would carry a gun to protect everyone on the stagecoach. So if you've ever gotten into a car before and you've said, you know, I call shotgun when you run to the front seat, that's where it comes from. Which is always a fun fact I share that a lot of adults are even like, I've never heard of this. That's so interesting. Okay, so I'm creating up here a little metal bar so that if you had luggage up top, you know, that would help it from moving around so much, or if you were sitting up there. Let's see, we're gonna need some windows, so let's start with like a door. Definitely gonna want a door to get in your stagecoach for sure. Create a little, and then we're definitely gonna want some windows because, oh my goodness, can you imagine riding a wagon going out west in the beautiful plains and mountains and deserts that you would pass? You would definitely want to look out a window. Also on stagecoaches, you can kind of see it on here, there were these leather flaps at the top that could roll up and down, and that was just for weather. So if it got really rainy, you could pull it down and protect you on the inside from rain, because glass was really, really expensive. So a lot of times their windows wouldn't be glass, they would just be open. Now this one does have some glass windows. These two squares right here, those are glass windows. Now if you look at Redbird, this one doesn't have any glass windows. It only has glass on the lantern. So if you also, these are things I'm encouraging you to think about to add. Do you need a lantern to see in the dark? Are you going to need to draw some of those leather straps at the top to protect you from the rain? Things like that. Just be creative and thinking of ideas. Also, here, I'm actually going to erase this really quick, because on this one, you can see at the top that they put the name of the stagecoach company at the top. They painted over here at the top. So if you would like to create a fake name for a stagecoach company, you could definitely put that at the top. I'm gonna write Booth Western Art Museum. There we go, perfect. So I think I'm gonna leave my drawing for the most part pretty simple. I'm gonna draw a little design right here, a little line right here, and I think I'm gonna keep it at this. Also, I'm gonna draw a little part of the ground the stagecoach is driving on. There we go. And now I'm gonna start outlining it with a Sharpie that I grabbed before the video started, and I have to find. Here we go. Okay. Excellent. So now I'm going to start outlining my drawings so that I get some nice details in there, and then I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit while I draw about a very brief history talking about stagecoaches. The other encouragements I have for you as you're continuing your drawing, you know, experiment with colors. These stagecoaches, when you see the red and the yellow wheels, I think a lot of, at least I do, I think of Wells Fargo because they were a stagecoach company and they used those colors like that are bright and very incredible, and they were so iconic that that's still the logo of their bank today. So I drew my example. I was keeping with that and doing the red and the yellow, but I think on this one I'm going to try some different colors, and I want you to think of, you know, if I could design my stagecoach, how would I want it to look, or what colors would I want to add to it? All right, I'm done now. So after the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and then Lewis and Clark's expedition in 1804 and 1805, many Americans wanted to move out west for new land and for new opportunities. The Oregon Trail was a path that many people would take, and they would travel on horses and with wagons, which are a little bit different than stagecoaches, to get out west. And here, actually, I have a map of the United States. After I finish this circle, I will show you. But the Oregon Trail, it started at Independence, Missouri, and then it went all the way out to to Oregon. All right, here's my map. So Missouri's over here, and I think Independence is kind of over here near Kansas City here. And so people would travel up this way to go to Oregon, but also they might start out the same way and start branching out to other areas, going more north and going more south. So people would kind of start here and then spread as they went. And it was over 2,000 miles long, which is crazy long. That is wild. And they would have to travel over the Great Plains in the kind of middle area of the United States, which was a gateway out west, because horses and wagons could travel over that terrain more easily than they would later on, because the plains were very flat grasslands. And later they would hit the Rocky Mountains and the Sonoran Desert, and then it would get a lot harder to continue traveling out west. And those are considered barriers to going west. Other barriers that stagecoaches would have to face was crossing rivers on stagecoaches, which can be done, but it is very dangerous. Rocks that could break your wheels. And harsh weather, like super hot or super cold or rainy or dusty. Those are all things that could prevent you from having a safe, smooth travel going to the American West in a stagecoach. Now, stagecoaches, bump the camera. All right, we're good. I gotta make sure I don't shift y'all around too much. So, stagecoaches, like I was saying, they were vehicles that banks, like Wells Fargo, would use to transport mail across the country. That's what actually our stagecoach that we have, this Butterfield Overland Dispatch Company stagecoach, that was used to transport mail across the country. However, new technologies that came after the stagecoach had impact on stagecoach business. When the Transcontinental Railroad was completed, basically the stagecoach business went bankrupt because trains are faster, they're safer, they're cheaper, and they're more comfortable to ride in. So pretty much after the the tracks across the country were completed, the stagecoaches really didn't have a lot to do. Now, people would still use stagecoaches, like our rinky-dink coach. It's not rinky-dink, excuse me. I love the stagecoach. But this one was actually used even after trains were spread across the country, because it would take people from basically within town. So this one was used in a mining town. It would travel short distances on bad roads. And it was built for hard work, which means that, that's why it looks worn out and kind of uncomfortable. It's a working wagon. Our stagecoach, like this one, the Concord, Concord coach number 84, excuse me, my brain stopped working. This one was also used on top of transporting mail. It was built for travel across the country, and people could ride on it. They would take people out across the country, and it would cost $200 then, which is $5,000 now, which is so expensive. And so it was really only meant for very wealthy people to go out there. And that's why they made it look super fancy, and they put in all these new technological advances on the stagecoach because they wanted people to ride it. Like, one thing they had was these thorough braces, this line that goes across the bottom of the coach. That's actually like a shock absorber or a suspension. So when the wheels hit a bump, the top of the coach just rocks back and forth like a boat, which makes it much more comfortable to ride because you're not feeling every bump that you hit on the road. All right. Okay, so I've got to wrap up here in just a minute, but I did want to ask y'all, if you were looking, and I'd love it if you could respond in the chat and give me some guesses, if you could guess how many people could fit inside this stagecoach, how many people do you think could fit? There's no prize for whoever gets it right. I just want to see what you think. Yeah. Also, one other really cool fact about Stagecoaches is that the roads that Stagecoaches would use to go across the country, they would create roads essentially, and we eventually paved them, and that's what became a lot of our highways now, is because the width of a stagecoach is similar to the width of a car, and all of these paths were already well worn down, and so they said, well, why don't we just turn these into roads for cars? Do we have any guesses on how many people can fit in the stagecoach? 8. So actually, that's a good guess for people on the inside. In total on the stagecoach, you could fit 14 people, which is crazy. So there were 3 rows of seats on the inside of the stagecoach, so you could fit 9 people inside. And then you have the driver and the shotgun, which would be 11. And then there's actually an area up here where 3 people could sit on top. And a lot of times that would be employees of the stagecoach company who would ride from one place to another, and they may get rides from one stop to another, and so you could fit 14 people on here. There have been people who, okay, yes, a couple of people guessed more closely. So, yes, and also there's pictures of people even sitting way up here on the top, so you could potentially pack like 17 to 20 people on these, but that is would be very uncomfortable. I would not recommend packing that many people on here. All right, well, I hate to go before having any color on my paper, so why don't really quickly, I will color the wheels, and then I've got a skedaddle, and I'll finish drawing mine later, and I'll share a picture with you. I've got this blue Sharpie here. I'm gonna make my wheels blue. I also know that this Sharpie is a nice light blue. I think that'll stand out. Will look very striking. Here we go. Excellent. And also y'all can think about where your stagecoach is in your drawing. Is it out west? Is it in the desert? Is it in the mountains? What time of day is it? These are good questions to ask when you're working on your drawing. And you can probably see that my marker is dying. It is getting very faded and it doesn't want to color anymore. But you know what? I'm gonna keep going. I want to get both of the wheels colored. I believe in you. But you know what? Markers that go bad aren't the worst thing in the world. I can go on top with a crayon that's very similar. I can find another color or maybe even mix some. But maybe I like this faded look, you know? I'm assuming this coach has been riding out west and is very rough and tumble, so maybe it's faded from wear and tear. All right. Oh, that looks good. I like this. All right, so I am going to flip my camera around really quick. Boop. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Excellent. So thank y'all so much for joining me again today for our stagecoach drawing. I'm sorry I didn't get very far with it, but this is a very detailed drawing. I mean, we're basically doing the work of designers and oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of engineers and people who design things like this that we're going to use. So it takes a lot of time to do some of these that have a lot more details. So, and that's totally okay. I'm gonna sit in here and I'm gonna finish working on this for a little bit and then I will post a picture to share with y'all. I would love to see the drawings that y'all are doing along with me during these art lessons. So you can send those any way that you can figure out to send it to us. We will get it and we will look at them and I will love them. You can post them in the comments of these videos. You can also post them anywhere on social media and use our hashtag #BoothMuseum and we will be notified of your amazing artwork. I will be here again next week on June 16th. Same time, 10:45, same place, the Booth Western Art Museum's Facebook page. And again, this has just been so wonderful and I'm so glad that all of you have joined me for this video and especially me and the Booth Western Art Museum as we work to share America's story. I'll see you next week. Have a good one, y'all.